Welcome back to the Pulse with Willie and Al. How's it going today, brother?
Oh man, we are back after a hiatus, and I am doing well, man. I am doing well. How are you?
Dude, I am good, man. We took a nice little month off there, had some stuff going
Yeah.
on. We were able to go home. We dipped into the States again for another trip. Got to my sister's wedding, which was great. Nice event there. But yeah, just a lot of craziness the last month. So got to refresh, recharge, and when we come back, it seems like the world's turned on its head with what's going on in sports.
Whew. Ain't that the truth? My goodness. My goodness.
Yeah. Well, like Al said, we took a little sabbatical there right after the Super Bowl, but we had some time to process, uh, recharge, regear, and now we're ready to give you some of the upcoming MLB season stuff that we got going on, as well as some of the stuff with the NFL offseason, which overnight took a drastic turn. But listen,
I heard
guys.
I heard somebody I heard somebody compare it to like a real life franchise mode in Madden of what's going on right
Yes,
now.
yes, I think it was Sauce Gardner that
Yeah.
said that. Very, very
Uh,
accurate. So,
Yeah.
um, but listen, guys, before we jump into the fun with this, just don't forget to go ahead and like that video, smash that subscribe button, so we can keep bringing you this great MLB, NFL content that you love. So, Al, why don't
Yes,
we
sir.
hop into Major League Baseball? I know we've got we've,
Woo.
we've got some burning questions going on as we are what?
Yeah.
How many days out?
I believe on the 20th of this month, the Dodgers and I believe it's the Padres are
Mhm.
playing in Korea.
Okay.
So for a series, and those games will count towards the MLB season.
Which
And
is
then
is crazy.
the rest of the season starts at the end of March, early April. So we still got a couple of weeks away. So
Okay. All right. Well, and who's going
yeah,
to be playing in that game in Korea?
I believe it is the Dodgers, and it is going to be the Padres.
Okay.
So
Dodgers and
yeah,
Padres that we got. So Otani, it kind of is nice to see him. I heard he's making some ripples in the dugout. Like people are really loving this guy in the clubhouse. He's sending out good vibes. They're loving his hard work that they're seeing out of him. Like it seems like it's
and
nothing
he's
but a win.
And for a dude that had elbow surgery in the offseason, he's already just back to crushing dingers
Yeah.
in spring training.
Must be
I
nice,
don't
right?
like yeah, like if you see there's like a picture of him, he's in the clubhouse doing an interview, and the scar on his elbow from the surgery that he had this offseason is nasty. Like,
Really? It's bad?
yeah, it is gnarly.
Yeah, I have not checked
But
it out yet. But it's going to be very interesting. One thing I wanted to mention before we hop into these questions here, I saw ESPN revealed like their top 10 guys in baseball that they have so far this year, and I think he
yeah,
was number 10 on the list, which I was kind of shocked by. Uh, some of the guys ahead of him are his teammates that I'm seeing, and I'm like,
yeah,
man, why wouldn't they have?
yeah.
Why wouldn't he be the number one guy in baseball? But apparently they still think that guy down in Atlanta, Acuna, is still that dude. So
He's a pretty nice player.
yeah,
Pretty
he's
nice
pretty
player.
good. Well,
Yeah,
I know been lucky with him, but we'll jump into that in a second here. So let me ask
yeah.
you, is this the year, based on the moves that have been made by the Dodgers, is this the year that they get over the hump?
It has to be. It has to be. Like, they don't have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
They for what they spent in the offseason, signing Otani to a $700 million contract, trading for Glasnow and then giving him an extension, signing Yamamoto to a $325 million contract. Like, they don't have a choice. They
Yeah.
don't have a choice. And I'm gonna go one step further. If they don't win the World Series this year, Dave Roberts is getting fired.
Yeah,
And I know that sucks for a guy that just won the World Series 4 years ago, but that's that's the way it is.
haven't we
Like
been saying that for a couple years now though, that like every year if they don't win the World Series, it's a letdown, right? Like I hate to
they
compare. Yeah.
before though, like they always had something that was like tripping them up. Like last year, they didn't have any starting pitching. All
Hmm.
of their starting pitching either got hurt or the case of a guy like Urias, like just was
Legal
a giant
trouble.
piece of shit.
Yeah.
Yep. So like, and they didn't really have like much of a bullpen at that point. And so like this year, like this year they don't really have an excuse. They're going to get Walker Bueller back from Tommy John this year. They have a rotation that is Clay. There's a world where Clayton Kershaw is the fourth best pitcher in that rotation this year, which
Yeah.
is bananas.
Hmm.
And they have the bullpen now, and then again, we can't talk enough about the lineup they have,
Yeah,
where
it's
I like it's an embarrassment of riches. I think the only thing that you can say is like the bottom of that lineup is still met, that
yeah,
like the 7 through 9, but like that 1 through 6, good luck.
yeah.
Good luck. If you can get through that lineup 3 times around, like I God bless, because that's I don't understand how pitchers are going to do that night
Hmm.
in and night out.
Now, one thing
So
I wanted to mention, and just you know me, I like to draw comparisons between leagues, but the Dodgers almost have that feel of like the Patriots to me, even though they haven't had the success that the Patriots have had, like to that level.
yeah,
Very few teams in any sport have, but very similar. Like it feels like if they don't win it all, if they're not the last team standing at the end of the year, then it's been a failure for the season. And it seems like I think fans kind of put that out there too, um, where they just assume like we're gonna be back, right? We're gonna be back in the World Series, but it's very, very difficult, and it's especially in baseball. It's not a race. It's definitely a
yeah,
marathon. Like if you
yeah,
race it, you'll burn out. So I,
yeah.
I don't know. I definitely think they're going to be one of the top three teams at the end of the year. I just don't know if they're going to be the top team because they still need to be able to produce. And we've seen teams, i.e., my Braves, that have played well all season and dropped a dud in the playoffs. It happens, right? Like you don't want to
Well,
get cold at the wrong time.
yeah. Well, the thing is, too, the Dodgers this year remind me of. Do you remember that year? I want to say it was 2011, where the Eagles like signed everybody and they were like dubbed the Dream Team,
Yep.
and then they just took a massive dump on the
Yep.
season because they like that level of expectations, like they cratered.
Yeah. It's just
I,
not.
I don't
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen to the Dodgers,
No.
but like they do have those level of expectations. And I'll tell you this: every series they play, they're going to get their team's best effort because to them, like the crowds this team is going to draw because of how good they are and how popular they are. It's just there, and that's gonna wear on them. Like guys are gonna grind a little harder when they're playing the Dodgers because they want to prove that they're just as good. You know.
I mean, that's the interesting thing about LA. And I spent some time living there and just seeing the feel of the city playing there, I can't
Yeah.
even imagine. I just can't. I mean, you're having celebrities come to your games. There are going to be sold out Dodger games every night if
Yeah.
possible. They've spent that much money. They invested over $1 billion this offseason. They are definitely, and I say, you know, long-term investment. It's not a 1 year investment that we're talking about, but longevity wise, like $1 billion and just a couple of players there, they're going to draw crowds. And when teams come in, the Dodgers are going to get everyone's best shot. No one in the league,
Absolutely.
none of the other 31 teams, is that right?
Yeah.
31? None of the other 31 teams are sitting there saying, "Oh, you know what? We want the Dodgers to win." No. They want to take them out. They want to say,
Yeah.
"Oh, you put together this all-star team. Great. We're coming to town. We're going to smash it." Like
Yeah.
so I
I
don't know.
I I will say this about the Dodgers. I think that what does benefit them is that all of their insanely good players are all really good clubhouse guys.
Yeah. Yep. Freddie
And I
Freeman,
think
Mookie
that like
Betts. Yeah. You're right.
you've seen it with Freeman over the years. I saw it with Mookie Betts when he played for the Sox. Like they have just dudes in the clubhouse that aren't gonna let bad things happen to this team.
Right. Or
Like,
they're
and I
going to pick
think
them up
that
when they're down for sure.
yep, yep, you just have a bunch of really good dudes in that clubhouse, and I think that's gonna make a real difference because Freddie Freeman and Chris Sale, sorry, I'm thinking ahead to the Braves.
Yeah.
Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts have played big games with franchises in markets where there are insane expectations.
Yep. Yeah.
Like, so they can handle this.
Absolutely.
I think Otani can handle this as well because in my reason I say that is you look at the World Baseball Classic last year, Japan was one of the teams that was favored to win the whole thing,
Hmm.
and Otani was expected to produce, and he did just that.
Yeah.
He did exactly what they asked him to. So I think that they can. And Otani, all he has to worry about is hitting this year,
Yeah.
which means good
No
luck.
stress, man.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck, pitchers.
Hmm.
It's boy. Yeah, yeah. I just again, I think about this lineup daily, and I just don't understand how you're going to get 27 outs. Like there isn't a lot of soft spots in that lineup. And sure, these guys will go through slump, and I'm sure there'll be injuries, but like, I just don't. I don't get it.
Hmm.
I don't get it. So
Yeah, it's I mean, we'll talk about it in a few minutes, but yeah, it is a very very difficult lineup to be able to go up against if you're a pitcher. Not too many pitchers in the league looking at that and being like, "Oh, I can't wait to pitch against them." Um, but listen, moving on now, we've got Baltimore too. Who really, I think I would have liked to see a better ending for them last season because I felt like they were a good story. Um, but we've also seen how they've turned the tide the last few years. This isn't just a blip on the map for them, right? Like it seems like this is something that they've built over the last few years. So, what do you think about Baltimore this year? How do you see things working out with them?
this Baltimore is going to be an interesting case study. So like we just talked about the Dodgers and the expectations that they have, and they have experience with those expectations. Baltimore has those same expectations, and I don't know if they're going to be able to handle that. That is going to be an interesting case study.
Okay.
Baltimore traded for Corbin Burns in the offseason, which their glaring weaknesses were bullpen and starting pitching, and having Corbin Burns, who won the Cy Young Award 2 years ago, makes them instantly the best team in the American League. And it's not respectfully, like it's not even close for me. Like
Really?
I know everybody talks about Houston, and I know Texas is the champs. Uh, but there's a lot of question marks with both those teams this year, especially with Houston and Verlander starting the year on the IL. Uh, the thing with Baltimore that is really scary is the lineup. The lineup that they have now is so good,
Hmm.
but what's scarier is they have the number one farm system in Major League Baseball, and there's a good chance that Jackson Holiday is getting called up this year. And if you just want to spend a couple minutes watching what he's done in spring training, man, it is going to be a shame if they make him start the year in the minors so they can have an extra year of control. Because oh boy, he is good.
Okay.
He is good, and he comes from a baseball family, and like the dude just looks poised and ready to put everything together. So
Okay. Well, what
yeah,
you guys heard it here first from Al. He's saying that Baltimore is the team to beat in the American League.
yeah, I that's not even a hot take.
Okay.
That's like I would imagine it like, because the thing is like they have so much talent in the minors that's kind of ready to be called up.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah,
Again, it's not
yeah,
something that
that's
was built overnight. Like these are plans that have
nope.
been laid in place over the last few years. You know, when they were losing 100 games. So very very glad to see Baltimore. You know, possibly having the possibility to get on top of the mountain there.
Yeah,
Now I'm gonna come back to them in a minute because I want to ask an important question about that. But let's move on real quick to the Braves. You know the my team, right? So, um,
yeah.
why don't we? What was your view on the Braves and how they finished last year? What you see them going to do this year?
I They shouldn't have lost to Philly last year. They shouldn't have. They were the superior team, but Philly just for some reason has their number. It's happened the last two postseasons. They've eliminated Atlanta from the playoffs. And at this point, like Atlanta's gotta kind of be worried about that. Like if they're gonna face Philly in the playoffs again, like Philly has their number. And Philly just kind of they didn't do much in the offseason, but their big thing was they gave Wheeler a massive extension to ensure he finishes his career in Philly.
Mm-hmm.
They're Philly's essentially running it back. And honestly, good on them. Like I still think they're a piece short pitching wise, and they're gonna need some bullpen help because that really was kind of their detriment in the NLCS last year against Arizona, but they're still really good and they still have all that talent. They have Trey Turner, Bryce Harper. Like, they're going to be all right. They're going to be all right. That being said, Atlanta has really high expectations this year because they ran the same team back.
Mm-hmm.
They got somehow better with a few minor trades, and then they traded for Chris Sale. Like, and I want to be kind about this. I'm very thankful for Chris Sale and what he did for the Red Sox. He is a huge reason they won in 2018. He gets the
Mm-hmm.
last out on Manny Machado, and that's a video I still go back and watch when I'm feeling sad because he makes Manny Machado look like a fool. And honestly, fuck Manny Machado. I'll say it. Fuck him. Um, so Atlanta, they took what is probably their biggest strength and just got stronger. But the thing that worries me is Chris Sale hasn't pitched a full season in forever.
Yeah.
And that's the Chris Sale that you're going to get. And I hope he stays healthy for you guys. I really do. Because when he's healthy, he's going to be a great addition to that rotation.
Yeah.
So, and of course, you got the lineup as well with Acuna, with Olson. Like,
I mean, they've got a lineup that they can match up with LA, and
absolutely
that's impressive. So, and this is the thing again, I'm very biased because I love Atlanta, but I really do feel like they have it's a tougher time through their lineup 1 through 9 to get through than it is in Los Angeles right now. Whether that plays out the way it did last year, I don't know. They had a lot of guys hit home runs in record numbers that I don't know, to duplicate that is very difficult to do. But the better those guys are, and now with another year of experience under their belt, it's very difficult. Experience matters. That's, I guess, what I'm trying to say. We could be staring down Acuna at another 50-50. I say another one, but the first 50-50 guy. And that would be pretty incredible for him to be able to do that. We don't know. It seemed like he avoided a pretty serious injury just this past week, and that's definitely a good thing.
Yeah.
But I kind of chuckled because they asked Snicker about it, like, "Oh, what do you think? Like, are you gonna hold him back a little bit?" He's like, "Are you kidding?" He's like, "No, this guy's gonna eventually slow down someday. I'm not, I'm not slowing him down at all. We're gonna let this kid go." While he can, right? So I love that response because it's like, man, let the guy play, right? Just let him go out and do what he does, right?
And Acuna has such a unique skill set, and he's just like he's one of the fastest people I've ever seen play baseball, and like that's just gonna like that's gonna happen. Like that is the way he plays baseball. Like he plays baseball hard.
Mm-hmm.
He only has one speed, but with that, like that means these things can happen.
Yeah,
they can. Like,
yep.
and that's the risk you got to run. And he's already like he tore his ACL once.
Yeah, he did.
Like if I'm every time I watch him play, it's something I think about. Like, man, this guy feels like he's one bad injury away from his career ending, and that's terrifying. So I really take advantage when I watch him because we're watching a talent that just you don't see talent like that every day.
No, you definitely don't. Well, let me ask you. So we've got Baltimore in the AL. You've got the Dodgers and the Braves now that we've talked about in the NL.
And the Phillies.
Oh yeah, and the Phillies too. The Phillies are always going to be there, and I feel like Bryce Harper. All of a sudden, like September comes, and he's like, "All right, boys, let's do it."
Yeah.
Like they don't even need to be, and that's the thing. You don't need to win 100 games. All you need to do is get into the playoffs, and then it's time.
Yeah,
They're a team that does very well during the playoffs. So it's they're going to be a tough out, and I feel like inevitably it's like those old Patriots Colts games where the road just is going to go. They're going to meet. They're going to meet each other. They're going to have
has
to.
to go through. It has to. That one of them has to beat the other to advance.
Yep,
Yep.
absolutely. So, uh, how do you think? What are your projections for the season for baseball? Who do you think ends up winning?
I, 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 I know that I just said that Baltimore is the team to beat in the American League,
Mm-hmm.
and they are. I don't know if they can handle those expectations. I don't, and I don't. Texas, Texas is a really good story, and to beat the champ, to be the champs, you got to beat the champs.
Yep,
So
we've learned
they're
that.
kind of the team to beat. Yeah, they're the team that you kind of have to go through right now, and Texas is running back that same lineup again. You know, they're gonna hope that DeGrom is healthy. They got Scherzer.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I, I history tells me that a team like Texas, I don't think they're going to repeat doing what they just did. That's there's a reason you haven't had a repeat winner in a long time in baseball because it is so hard to do. That
Yeah.
you essentially have to have good injury luck 2 years in a row, and the baseball gods never allow that to happen. They just don't. Like something always happens. So I guess by process of elimination, like I'm going to take Baltimore, but like I don't. I will say this with Baltimore, they have the right manager in place to manage those expectations.
Okay.
Just like Atlanta does with Snicker, like they have a guy that just gets it, and he was there with Baltimore when they had all those losing seasons, and he got to like see the turnaround and be part of that culture,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think it's going to be Baltimore, but like I would just be a little leery
Okay.
because they're a very young team that has all these expectations thrust on them.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think and I think it's going to be the Dodgers in the National League because I think that like if that team can stay healthy, there's no reason they should they first of all they're going to win 105 games easy.
Yeah.
Uh
Playing in
and
that division
I
for sure. Yeah.
I would bet any amount of money. I would bet that they're going to flirt with the all-time record for wins in a season, which is 116. I think they could flirt with that this year.
Okay.
They're going to need some luck, but they have the talent to do that.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Well, they got to get off to a good start here in April. They can't be rusty. They got to. Well, I'd say April, but
yeah,
March, right? Like they're gonna have to get going
yeah.
out of the gates real fast. So, all
And the
right.
thing,
Mm-hmm.
I would pick Atlanta, but the thing that worries me with them is they have a weird history now of like they have a lot of good starting pitchers in the rotation that can't stay healthy.
Yeah, you were right.
You got Freed, you got Chris Sale,
Morton.
yeah, like
It's
you just that's a lot to ask for them to stay healthy for 9 months. Can they do it? Sure, but like asking all three of them to be healthy for 9 months, good luck.
yeah, it
Like,
is. Especially as they get older, that's going to be more and more difficult.
yeah.
Prove difficult for sure. So,
But Sale's been great in spring training. His stuff has been electric. There's been an uptick in his fastball. Like and he's a guy too that like he he's mean. He is a mean dude. So like he gives that team a air of like, hey, if you're gonna fuck with us, I'm gonna hit you with a fastball right in the head.
right.
And he doesn't care. He doesn't care. And I love that about him. Like, yeah. It was always my favorite thing with Pedro. Pedro would
Right.
hit a
Yeah.
guy.
He'd
Pedro
come
would
right at you.
deliberately lose a perfect. Yeah, Pedro would deliberately lose a perfect game to make a point about throwing at a guy,
Yep.
and I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh man. Well, we'll definitely have more to talk about with baseball. I know come next week because any last previews that we want to get in, we can make sure we do that because then it's going to be
yeah.
off and running at that point. So, and
Can
I'm
we?
kind of
Can I also?
yeah. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, can I spend 60 seconds because this is the last time the Red Sox are going to make me feel good this year. So I'd like to just kind of get that out of the way now.
Sure.
We're going to be fucking awful this year. Like,
I can
I'm gonna
hear
tell
my
you,
dad laughing all the way from Turkey, right? Like,
oh my God.
yeah.
And I'm sure your dad is going to take great pleasure in it.
Yep.
Great pleasure in it. First of all, we've decided to become cheap all of a sudden, which that could be its own episode where I just rant and yell at the clouds for 45 minutes. But also the one starting pitcher that we signed, because we need like 6 of them, hurt his UCL and is out for the season already. So, and then we gave a 6-year extension to a guy who went 12-7 last year. Granted, it's like $9 million a year, so it's like actually pretty team friendly. But we're gonna be like 100 games is doable. Losing 100 games is very doable for us this year, and that hasn't happened since the '60s. So, yeah. And to boot, this season is always going to be forever. There's going to be footage of it because Netflix is filming a kind of a documentary series, and their first team that they chose is this season's Red Sox.
Awesome.
So not only do I get to experience this hell this season, I get to then experience it again next season, and everybody gets to watch it. And I cannot fucking wait. I cannot wait. So
good for you, man. You have a lot of luck coming your way. I can feel it. So
I have always known the bill was coming due for being a Patriots and a Red Sox fan. I always knew the bill was coming due, but man, it sucks.
It doesn't feel good when the bills are due.
Nope, it does not. So, but yeah, so thank you for letting me have a couple minutes to talk about the Red Sox and how they are going to make me miserable this year, and I can't fucking wait. I cannot wait to go to bed mad every single night because they're losing 11-3. Because, I can't wait for that.
Yeah, that's going to be tough.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about something that will make you feel good, right? And that's NFL free agency, because that just started yesterday with a bang. So go ahead. It's your turn to talk again. First reaction after NFL free agency opened. What are your thoughts?
I felt like I was sending you stuff every 5 minutes on Instagram from Adam Schefter being like, breaking news. And like every time I was like, boy, there isn't going to be more bigger breaking news. And then free agency was like, hey, hold my beer.
Yeah.
I think the one that I am weirdly excited about is Kyle Pitts is going to have a real quarterback. Can we talk about that for 4 seconds? Yeah. My God.
Well, not just him, but Bijan too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
oh my God.
Like Kurt just easily walked into like one of the best situations, and he's made the most out of a lot of the situations he's been in.
Also, quick shout out to his agent, who has gotten him a combined $411 million in career earnings.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Good for him. Like,
he's always signed very, very good contracts. Very, very smart.
Yeah.
So good for him. And he's a likable guy, man. I know some people don't care for him, but I really do like Kirk Cousins. Since I saw him on that quarterback documentary Netflix put together, I just thought he was such a good dude. And the stuff that he does to keep his body right, I mean, he's awesome. The way they talked about him in the locker room, being a great locker room guy too, that you need that. You need that kind of swag that you roll with. And he's going to a division that is not very good. So you could see Kirk Cousins and the Falcons in the playoffs next year. That's reasonable to think, right?
Respectfully, the only team they have to really worry about is Tampa.
Yeah.
Because Tampa, like, good for them. They gave Baker the money. And
they did.
I was worried for a minute they weren't going to.
Yeah.
And I thought they were going to cheap out on Mike Evans, and they did. Like, I'm here for it. So, that's Atlanta's really only competition in this division. So
Yeah.
good on Atlanta. Like, and Atlanta has a head coach that will actually draw plays for Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson, and I'm just excited to see that.
Yeah, and use them. And I'm not a Drake London fan, but I think he could actually do pretty well there. Um,
Drake London is a guy I feel like everybody's had on their fantasy team that's like, man, this is going to be the year, and then you just get crushed by him
yep.
and his 2 points a week, and you're like, well,
Guess
fuck
who's
me.
never had him on
So,
their team? Me.
hey,
And
nice,
I'm not going
nice.
to either. So, um, oh man, no matter how much I like Kirk Cousins, I'm not picking Drake London. So,
You'll do
um,
it.
yeah.
Somebody will talk themselves in our league. Somebody will for sure talk themselves into it this year.
Oh man, please don't let that happen. Like, call me up and tell me I'm an idiot if I do that. So,
No, I'm not going to because I want you to. I don't want you to win. Fuck that. In fact, I'll talk you into getting him. Sure.
yeah. Well, I want to at least give my opinion on it. And so like biggest signing for me and biggest impact is two different questions in my mind of what I
Mm.
see, right? Biggest signing I think was the Kirk Cousins signing because I think it's great. I love what it says. Atlanta's no longer going to be a spot for Justin Fields, even though I thought that he could possibly end up there. So I'm glad that Cousins is there, but I think it has a lot of ripple effects. Because of that, I think Justin Jefferson gets traded, possibly to your Patriots. Um, I don't know. I just don't see him
Don't
sticking
fucking
around.
tease me like that.
Yeah, I
Do
know.
not tease me
I'm
like
just
that.
saying, like,
Don't do it.
they're
Don't.
definitely one of the destinations. They're looking for a number one bona fide wide receiver. And what would be better? I feel like the new Patriots might draft a QB at 3. The old Patriots would trade that pick back to like 7 or 8, take a tackle, and get more picks on the way back, and then bring in a guy like Jacoby Brissett that they did, right? But I really think they're going to draft either Drake May or one of those guys at 3. I'm sorry, at 4? Are they
They're
at
three.
3?
Yeah.
3. Okay. I really think
Yeah.
they're going to do that. I don't think getting Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be the right move there. Even though I'd love, I'd hate to see him there, but that'd be a good value for him because I think he's an excellent athlete. I just think they need other things. The problem is, and I heard Dan Orlovsky say this perfectly yesterday, if the Patriots draft a quarterback at 3 and they play him out of the gates, they are going to end up with exactly what they got with Mac Jones. Mac Jones was a good, promising prospect coming out of college, and the Patriots ruined him because they did not put talent around him. That
I
team
you know
is bereft of talent. They really are, and I hate to say that. Gerard Mayo ended up inheriting a team that just sucks, man. Like they are not good. They're not good at the way the old Patriots that you have known and that I have known have been. And if they
yeah.
bring a quarterback in, it doesn't matter who it is. Doesn't matter if Caleb Williams goes there. They are going to wash out because they do not have the talent around them to be able to give them the support they need to succeed. So,
I've read a lot of mock drafts,
mhm.
and lately there just seems to be this thing where everybody thinks that the Patriots are going to take JJ McCarthy at 3. And I
Oh,
would just like to make a public plea right now,
don't do
for
that.
the love of God, please no. Please, dear God,
Jim
no.
Harbaugh said he's
Like,
good.
fuck him. Fuck out of here. Like, he's a good quarterback.
Yeah,
He's a good system quarterback,
right.
respectfully. Like, no, no, man. Like,
Hmm.
I'll settle for Drake May. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah,
I would love Jaden Daniels, but I don't think that's going to happen.
yeah.
So yeah, that's
Well, that was a long-winded way for me to get around what I thought the
yeah.
biggest signing was, but the biggest impact I'm kind of split on, and this is the reason I'm split. Is the first one that I feel about is Christian Wilkins going to Las Vegas. I think pairing him with a guy like Max Crosby is going to make them contenders there and a difficult team. Don't forget, this is a team that beat Kansas City last year.
Yeah.
Let me say that again. This is a team that beat Kansas City last year and threw the ball no times after the first quarter. Like
Yep.
that. Okay, Kansas City may have had an off game, whatever, but Las Vegas under Antonio Pierce is a new Raiders organization, a new Raiders team. And I really think adding a guy like Wilkins of his talent level to that defensive line, that's going to help them out a lot. Um, I'm split because that's the defensive guy I think is going to have the biggest impact. The offensive one that I think will have the most impact, and I haven't heard many people talking about this, but Detroit had a guy at guard, Jonah Jackson, who signed with the
Yeah.
Rams. And
Yep.
losing a guy like this, and again, it may not be the most massive impact on the Rams, but the Rams have Kyron Williams there. I think he's going to be an excellent back this year. I think he's going to do really well. Adding a guy like Jonah Jackson gives them a really solid guard to be able for him to be able to run behind. Also gives Stafford a chance to stay upright more. But I think that hurts Detroit's offensive line. Don't forget, Jonah Jackson was injured when they played against San Francisco. So they had a backup in there going and being able to do that. But I just think he's going to be missed a little bit in Detroit, and I'm not sure where it's going to be more. Whether they're going to miss him more in Detroit or he's going to be more effective in for the Rams. I just think it's going to have a big impact. So those were the two guys that I was thinking for biggest
I
impact.
think I think for me, if we're going to talk about the defense's bigged impact, it's a move that hasn't happened yet, but it sounds like it's going to in the next day or so.
Mm-hmm.
The 49ers are going to release Arik Armstead, man. And
Yeah,
that's whoever, first of all, that's, I know the 49ers are loaded on defense, but that's actually going to weirdly hurt them, I
yeah,
think, more than they realize.
I think it will too.
Um, I also, I think that if somebody can get that guy, like that makes your defense a lot better.
Yeah, that guy's a
Like,
baller, man. He really is.
yeah.
He clogs
So
up the middle. He can get after the quarterback. He's a beast, man. And having a guy like I think a guy that maybe feels that the most is maybe someone like Bosa, who when you
takes the pressure off of them.
yeah, so like when you take a
Yeah.
guy out like that, I mean that's a big deal, a big deal.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's gonna be interesting to see how that plays out and where he goes because that division instantly gets better and more competitive, and it puts three teams on notice wherever he goes. Um,
Yep.
so that definitely should be interesting. And
Yeah.
again, guys, just to let you know, there's other free agent signings that are going to happen and stuff. That we're recording this at well, geez, it's 6 o'clock for me on Tuesday, but it's only what 10 a.m. for Al 11 now,
11
right?
a.m.
So
Yep.
it's all the stuff that has happened Tuesday morning we haven't gotten into yet. But we will. I promise. What we will. We'll talk about T. Higgins and the kind of that scenario.
Woo.
The Jacobs, the Pollards, the Henrys. We will get into that stuff. Also Barkley as well. But we're gonna do that next week once everything's kind of settled and we see where everything's gonna lay. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to jump into some, just some quick bird's eye views of some of these teams before they go into the draft. We're going to tackle the AFC North and the NFC North today, and just give some quick hits on exactly these teams, how they did, what they're looking for, and what we can expect. So first, we'll start in the AFC North. We're going to start with the Bengals, right? Because they ended up taking fourth in the division. They finished at 9-8, and honestly, in my mind, I think they overperformed considering they lost Burrow in Week 11. They went 4-3 over the last 7 games, and I just look at that. Not many teams in the NFL can manage to go 500 or have a winning record if they lose their starting, quarterback in Week 11. A lot of times when quarterbacks, the starting quarterback goes down, the season's kind of done for that team. Not a lot of teams, and we're starting to see that more, especially last year. The importance of having a backup quarterback really matters, and Jake Browning was that guy when he came in. He played very well and
Yeah.
against some very tough teams. So I know we mentioned we talk about T. Higgins next week, but T. Higgins got tagged. He was unhappy about it. Now he's requesting a trade. So, what are your thoughts on him? And what they're going to do with it? Because obviously they've pissed him off to the point that he wants out.
I Out of all the things that I dislike about the NFL, I hate the franchise tag more than anything.
Yeah.
It fucks guys over so badly
Mm-hmm.
because teams refuse to trade people or refuse to pay people.
Yeah.
that bothers me to no end.
It
So when
benefits
I
the
see
owners, and I feel like you never hear about it benefiting the player. Like, okay, yeah, they
no,
get an average of the top five salaries at their position. Well, yeah, but or they could just get a contract from somebody that where they're going to get
honestly,
paid more than that, right?
the only time it ever benefited somebody was the 2 year stretch where Kirk Cousins got tagged and he was making insane money before he was actually Kirk Cousins,
Hmm.
which is the start of him getting that bag. But
Yeah.
yeah, no. So when I saw that he wanted to get traded, I was like, good for him. Good for him. That dude is a number one receiver on any other team.
They're talking about him possibly a landing spot for him being Kansas City as one of them, right? There's a few different ones, but Kansas City was one of
Yeah,
them. I'll tell you that would be interesting. Um,
yeah. That
but you're right. I hold the same energy you do with that. That I don't like the franchise tag, not at all. I just figure it out. You guys have a full year to figure stuff like that out, and really, I can't think of the last good conversation I've had about a franchise tag on somebody.
no, no.
Like
I've
really,
never
it's
had that
a hold on, we're
conversation.
gonna pay you type deal. Hold on, we're gonna pay you, and then oh yeah, they
Yeah,
don't, and then it doesn't feel good, right? So,
yeah,
but can Cincinnati, listen, they need some help on the offensive line again, and I feel like it's kind of like we talk about the same old Lions. Well, it's like the same old Bengals. We've been talking about this story for the last 3 years, like Burrow getting hit all over the field. Honestly, I don't think it was a great season for them. Burrow came in a little banged up as it was. He had that injury at the beginning. They got a
yeah.
very,
Training camp.
very,
Yep.
yeah, very slow start. And then all of a sudden they seem to kind of get going, but then it never was really operating like we were used to seeing. So I really think they could add
Yeah,
some on the offensive line to really help them out. They did just make a move where they cut Mixon and brought in Zach Moss. So I don't
yeah,
know. But in my mind, and I don't know if you feel different, I think offensive line and defense they need help on. Those are the
yeah,
two areas that I'd
yeah.
really like to see them add some guys through free agency and maybe a receiver through the draft if they're going to lose Higgins.
I would love to see them. I as much as I would love to. First of all, they need an offensive line
Hmm.
because we need to protect the national treasure that is Joe Burrow at all costs.
Yeah.
But for the love of God, I would love to see them get a corner. I would love to see them get a corner that actually can stop people.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
They could add one through free agency, possibly trading for Snead. Maybe they trade Higgins to Kansas City and they get L'Jarius Snead in return. But
Yeah.
I had considered this through the draft as I was kind of looking through to see guys that were going to be there. There's some really good receivers from LSU. Imagine pairing another LSU receiver with Jamar Chase at the end of the first round and like
Yeah.
them just going off and dominating and it's just LSU Haven, go Tigers, right? It's
Yeah.
just
Well, so the problem with Cincinnati is like where they're so in the first round they're slotted to pick 18th.
mhm.
That's not great for a team that really needs some help.
Yeah.
And
Re-
like they have some assets. They could trade up, but like they're in kind of a weird spot and like they've paid Burrow. They're gonna did they already pay Chase or they're gonna pay
No,
Chase?
I think they need to still do that. So he's definitely due a payday,
Like
which he's gonna get it now with T Higgins asking out, you know.
yeah, yeah,
But I don't know. I
yeah.
I,
I
I
just
want to see
like
them do well too. Them finishing fourth in the division is not a win. That's it's
yeah.
definitely not. Um, they got to figure it out. It is interesting that the team that finished fourth in this division still won 9 games. That's impressive.
That's goes to show you how good that division was
Yeah,
last year.
for real. And that's with them beating up on each other. You know.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
all right, moving on. We got the Steelers. They went 10-7. Mike Tomlin figures it out again. They finished third in the division, but they lose to the Bills in the wild card round. I don't think really anyone picked them to win that game, but I think they overperformed considering they had, and I hate to use that word again, but I really think they did considering the quarterback carousel that they had. I mean, it was brutal watching the Steelers last year. It really
yeah.
was.
Shane, I have 4 words for you. Okay,
Yep.
Steelers country. Let's ride.
Oh my goodness. I hate you. I hate you. I do not think I do not think they are happy about Russell Wilson being there. Um,
No.
the one thing I will say, he goes to almost an identical situation that he had um, in Denver, right? Two pretty
Yeah.
good receivers on the outside, right? You got
Mhm.
George Pickens, who's very good. Um, I don't know. They got two decent running backs and Najee Harris and Jalen Warren there. I just he's got a pretty good tight end target in Fryermuth, but really he's playing with a good defense, which we thought Denver's defense was terrible, and then all of a sudden they tightened up and they were good. But the Steelers have a real defense there,
Yeah.
and he's got a guy in T.J. Watt that's gonna cause turnovers, and Highsmith as well. That they're gonna force turnovers and get them the ball back. Hopefully, Minka Fitzpatrick is healthy this year because he spent most of it seemed like last season not healthy and banged up,
Yeah.
and that really hurt that team. Um, I don't know, man. I'm not in the boat that wants to see Russell Wilson fail. Uh, I'd like to see him be good somewhere else to just prove that like it wasn't a wash. What he would like it wasn't fake what he was
Denver.
doing in
Yeah.
Seattle, right? I don't think it was his fault in Denver, and I love that he's taking a league minimum, uh,
Well,
minimum
Denver's paying
contract.
all of his
Yeah,
salary.
they
Like
deserve
Denver,
to.
yeah.
They deserve to. They screwed that up real bad, and the way they treated him on the way out the door was not good. Clearly, him and
Also,
Sean Payton did not see eye to eye on a lot of things.
yeah. I will say this about Russell Wilson.
Hmm.
Year one of Russell Wilson in Denver, that's on him. He was, from what I have read, like he had some real diva behavior.
Yeah,
Uh
I noticed that, like the high knees on the plane and like just weird stuff that he was doing.
having his own office and his own coach, and they got rid of that last year. And if you watch Denver, like statistically, he wasn't the problem.
No, no, he was not. He was not this past year. He actually played very, very sound football for what he was being asked to do. Um,
And with the talent that he had around him, respectfully,
I mean,
like
him and Cortland Sutton were figuring things out through the air. Cortland Sutton had like
yeah,
I don't know what 9 games in a row with touchdowns, something like that. Very close to
yeah.
it. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but he should have a coach with Tomlin that wants to run the ball, committed to running the ball, and plays good defense. So they should give him plenty of opportunities. I just think he went to the worst possible division he could have gone to.
I will I will say the one thing that I with Russell Wilson that scares me. He used to have a cannon for an arm,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think he really has that as much anymore.
Yeah, I
And
haven't
the problem
seen
is,
that lately.
yeah, and the problem is, I think that he thinks that he still has that cannon and can make those throws, and he hasn't figured out that he can make those
Listen,
throws.
I'm not going to be the one to tell him that. He's shorter than me,
No,
but he's an NFL quarterback, and I can't make those throws. So I'm not going to say that he can't, but I think
yeah.
age is starting to. You're right. It's starting to wear on him a bit, and
Real
I
quick,
think it's
last thing.
hit his confidence too.
Yeah. Well, last thing. Did you see the thing he said the other day, Russell Wilson, about how he's going to win 2 Super Bowls in the next 5 years?
Yeah, I don't know. Looking around the league, there's a lot of guys. Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, all now he went to the AFC, right? So, well, I mean, he was in Denver, but I'm just saying like he could have gone to the NFC and he chose not to. But I think it's a much easier path going through the NFC.
Sure
I don't
is.
know. He decided to stay, and I don't get that, man. There's also a guy coming back from Achilles surgery. Uh, oh, Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, he's won a Super Bowl. Um, so we'll see. The like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It with a healthy Burrow and the rest of these guys coming back hungry, I just don't see a spot in the playoffs for them. But like I said, they run the ball well. They play good defense. Mike Tomlin's a good coach. Maybe they're able to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And speaking of, like, in this division, you got Cleveland,
yeah, Cleveland.
who
Listen, they finished 11-6, right? Like they. I don't know about you, but I was definitely impressed by them.
I was I know we had talked about it before that Houston game. We both wanted so badly for Flacco to go into Baltimore for a playoff game. We
Mhm.
wanted that so badly. And then Houston was like, hey guys, you know that Joe Flacco actually isn't a good quarterback anymore. Let's It was like the Wizard of Oz where they pulled the curtain back and you're like, oh,
Yeah,
we
yep.
all got fooled again.
Dude,
My bad.
I I'm actually ashamed of myself. I mentioned all those quarterbacks that are up and coming. I don't even mention CJ Stroud, who I'm a huge fan of, man. Like that guy is a
Yeah.
baller and he is
Yeah.
awesome and very,
Definition of
very
stud.
humble too.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, Cleveland, you're right. Listen, they lost to Houston by a lot in the wild card round.
Whew.
Their $250 million quarterback played essentially 5 games last year, right? Like he was in a sixth game, but he played, I think he threw one pass in that or had one completion. But they need to figure out what to
Yeah.
do with him. And in my mind, especially what they're doing now, and what comes to mind is kind of what Mark Schlereth said that NFL contracts nowadays don't mean anything. They're basically written on toilet paper because the minute you don't like something, you just throw it out, right? And that's exactly what happened with Russell Wilson. What did they? They're taking a massive hit on that. What is it, like 80, 85 million, something like
85
that?
million for
Yeah,
the next 2 seasons
yeah.
combined. Yeah.
Ridiculous,
Yeah.
man. Like there's no loyalty within that, right? And they want that from the players, yet they're not going to extend that. Even talking with my dad about it, him saying that, the NFL contracts are the worst in all pro sports because none of them are guaranteed. You sign a 3-year deal, they cut you after the first year and you don't get jack after that, right? Um,
Well, the problem with that though is Deshaun Watson's contract is fully guaranteed.
yeah, it is. Yep.
So that's the issue.
Yep.
Like, which respectfully, good on him for getting that bag, but like
Yeah.
at the same time, boy, Cleveland's kind of stuck with him, and like you kind of reap what you sow.
They got to figure it out, but he
So
did not seem like Kevin Stefanski's guy, especially when they were able to get it done with Dorian Thompson Robinson, and you got Joe Flacco there. That both are guys that are not. I mean, Joe Flacco's won a Super Bowl. He's no scrub, but I don't think he has the talent that Deshaun Watson does, and Deshaun wasn't doing much with what he had. But I mean, them losing Chubb really hurt them a lot. But
sure did.
they hung their hat
Yeah.
on that defense, man. Like their defense was legitimately awesome last year. Miles Garrett is an absolute beast. And within the last week, you look at some of the moves they made, right? Like they add Jerry Judy, which
Which was shocking.
I don't like him, but okay.
I don't either. Yeah.
I don't like him as a player. He could be a good guy, but I don't know. I saw that one encounter that he had with Steve Smith, and dude, you don't go up to Steve Smith and start talking smack unless you can back it up. And Steve Smith
Yeah.
backed it up, right? Like
Sure
that
did.
dude's he's played hard. He's been in Super Bowls. Like Jerry Judy hasn't even sniffed a Super Bowl, and he's talking smack to him. Like, come on, man. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure Steve Smith won a Super Bowl. I could be wrong. No, they were in one. They were in one. They lost to the Pats, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I had to think that through for a minute.
Yeah, yeah. I was trying to remember. I couldn't remember if he won one or not, but no, he did not win one. They lost to the Patriots in the Super Bowl that year. It was close, but they lost. But I don't know. I gotta ask, how do you feel about Jerry Judy being there?
I think it gives whoever's gonna. I think that opens things up for Amani Cooper, but like, I don't think he moves the needle as much as Cleveland thinks he's gonna move the needle.
I don't know
So
why they gave up what they did to get him because like you're bringing in a guy that's probably at minimum a third option. At
yeah,
minimum, man. Probably fourth because if Chubb's healthy, you're giving him the ball. Jerome Ford's healthy, you're giving him the ball. Amari Cooper, David Njoku, you're not going to Judy. You're just not. I mean, all this smack talk years ago about like him being an unbelievable route runner and all this footwork, great. But if you're doing it in practice shorts on a practice field, it doesn't mean diddly do, right?
yep,
You got to do it in
yeah,
a game. And in games, he has just not been that good.
yeah. I agree.
Just
Yeah,
and again, it's not that I want him to be bad. He's just I'm looking at his production. It's poor compared to the rest of the wide receivers in the league. So
Cleveland seems like somebody that could benefit from like having another corner. That's I know that's kind of a weird thing,
Well,
like
they
or
had
a
the two
safety.
best corners in the league this year with like the
I
tandem
know,
they
but
had, but adding a guy in the slot, you're absolutely right, man. Like they
yeah,
could really shut
or they could
things
use a
down.
safety. They could
Yeah.
use a really good safety as well. Like I think because the thing was you can throw that's great that you have really good corners, but like if you don't have a safety that kind of is like playing center field,
Like
like
Ed
you
Reed,
can still
baby.
kind of run deep. Yeah, exactly. You can still run deep post routes on them.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep. Up the middle,
um,
up the seam. You're absolutely right
yeah,
about that. And they did get burned. We saw that happen a few times towards the end there. End of the season where they were able to get burned like that. Even in the Houston game, they got exposed quite a bit. Like their defense was their
oh yeah,
strength, and they got crushed in that game. So
yeah.
well, the first team that won the division we know about, and this is interesting because Baltimore they go 13-4, number one seed through the playoffs. They got the MVP on their team, but they dropped a dud, man, to Kansas City in the AFC Championship game, and basically it seemed like they just got controlled from beginning to end. Like Lamar, like I said, MVP defense was stellar this year, right? They still fell short. Like,
You know what it? You know what it was? Steve Spagnuolo Jedi mind tricked them into doing stuff they don't usually do. He really did.
yeah,
He really did.
yep,
He tricked them into thinking like we shouldn't run the ball, which is
yeah,
incredible
which is
because you
what we
could,
do, right?
yeah, he convinced them that that wasn't the way to go. And that, to me, that's brilliant. That is
Yeah.
absolutely brilliant.
I don't know. And I'd really like to see them add a solid wide receiver. I think if they had added DeAndre Hopkins and paid him the money instead of paying Odo Beckham, I think they would have had a better shot in the playoffs last year against Kansas City. I think it would have been much tougher for Kansas City to be able to win that game. But I'd also like to see
Yeah.
them add a running back that can stay healthy, like a change of pace back with, to pair with Gus Edwards, right? Though I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure Gus Edwards is gone now. I think I just read yesterday that he ended
Yeah.
up signing
I
somewhere
saw
else.
that.
Yep. Dobbins, I just hope they move on from him, right? Like he just can't stay healthy, right?
Yeah.
I know an electric talent,
That's not,
all the
and
yards
that's not
per
his
carry.
fault.
Yeah, I mean,
Just some guys can't stay healthy, man.
yeah, I
That's,
mean it's a tough thing. It's a tough sport when you're putting your body through that.
yeah.
He didn't purposely tear his Achilles or anything like that. He's not purposely trying
No.
to get hurt. It's just unfortunate for him, right? Like I just think they need to continue doing what they're doing on defense. Though losing their defensive coordinator to the Seattle head coaching position, they're going to lose a few guys from that.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. Clowney, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to Seattle. Like that defensive coordinator knows how to implement and plug guys in the right spot, and he did a very good job with that this past year. I think maybe they lose a few guys to Seattle. I think it's going to happen. So
And I we'll talk about this like when we do like our preview, like big preview episodes.
Mhm.
But like, I think you're going to see with Baltimore this year what happened to Philly last year when you lose really good coordinators.
Yep.
I think that defense is going to take a huge hit this year.
There's a reason why it's so difficult to get back. It really is, man.
That's why what Kansas City's doing right now is just incredible.
Yeah.
That's why
it's
because
unprecedented.
they do it every year. Yep.
And you got a lot of fans up in the Boston area that are hoping Kansas City doesn't go for a third one in a row. So
Yeah.
I think it's kind of remarkable what they're able to do. So but let's move on here. So we've got the NFC North. This one gave you a real laugh. I love this one, right? So Chicago Bears, they finished 7-10. They were fourth in the division. And you were laughing about this one.
I told you when I opened the show notes and I was reading them and I got to the Bears and I was like, I don't remember them winning 7 games last year. I was like, I think Willie Willie fucked that up.
Yeah.
And then I had to Google it and I was like, huh, the Bears did win 7 games last year. Good on them.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy when you think of it. It really saved Eberflus's job. And I know Justin Fields had something to do with that, but think about the polar opposites of play that he had through the season. Times that he looked unbelievable, and then times that he looked terrible, right? Like them being able to beat Detroit, almost twice. They should have beat Detroit
Yeah,
twice, right? And then also games where, like, didn't he have that one against Denver where he fumbled at the goal line? Like he went and threw the
sure
ball
did.
and, like, oh man, it was so
Yep.
ugly. Or maybe that was Tampa Bay. That's what it was, Tampa Bay, that he did that. It was awful to see, but Chicago's, they're cleaning house, right? So they already released Eddie Jackson, who, great safety for them out of Alabama for years, played under Nick Saban there. But they did sign Jalen Johnson to a big deal, right? And they
Saw
needed to
that.
do
Yeah,
that. And I think especially in the NFL nowadays, like you had mentioned before, you need to have a lockdown corner. You have to do it. You
sure
have to
do.
have a guy that you could put on someone and just take them out of the game. It's what makes guys like Sauce Gardner, Patrick Surtain, L'Jarius Sneed, is what makes them so good, because you could put them on a guy and say, not today. You're not going to do it. So,
One better. You can put them on the opposing team's number one receiver.
yeah, that even better than
That's
that.
yeah,
They can follow them all
yeah,
over the field if they need to.
and they will just make their day a living hell.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I mean, if you look at the highlight reels, like this guy has incredible instincts. He's very good at breaking on the ball, and
Yeah.
even on some of the routes, like there was one route that I watched him have this year with against T.J. Hawkinson. Before T.J. Hawkinson was even out of his route, he had already broke on the ball and picked it. Like it was just,
Yeah.
I mean, he's a great player.
He's got some
So
of the better hands in the league for a corner.
absolutely. Well, that's what you see. And a lot of these guys used to play
Yeah.
receiver. They convert to the
Yeah.
defensive side, and they're unbelievable. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, really about this team that we're going to talk about, it really centers around Justin Fields and Caleb Williams, right? And it's gone back and forth there. But I've got to ask this question to you, because it seems like it's a sure bet that Justin Fields is going to be leaving. Caleb Williams is in town. What if Caleb Williams doesn't find success here?
I'm going to tell you something. I think that they actually keep Fields, and I'm going to tell you why. Because this is going to be like what, his last year of his rookie deal.
Mm-hmm.
You might as well keep him. Like what do you have to lose? Like, because respectfully, you're not going to get much for Fields. You're
They're
just not.
saying maybe a second round pick now. Maybe.
If they can fleece a team out of a second round pick, good on them. But if you're Chicago, I just want to make sure I worded this correctly. If you're Chicago, like, sure, Justin Fields isn't the guy, but like, you might as well hedge your bets. Like, you don't get this chance very often. Like, I think Caleb Williams is going to be pretty good in the NFL,
Yeah.
but what if you just kind of let him like ride the bench for a little while? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you give him time to like learn an offense, to learn how to be an NFL quarterback. Like, respectfully, Justin Fields isn't really going to teach you how to do that, but like you're going to have you're going to have good coordinators to like do that and help you.
Right. See, I
Like,
just a couple
you
things for me on that, because like listen, Justin Fields, he's very dynamic, but Caleb Williams is a generational talent. Like
sure
I
is.
just the issue for me is I'm still not convinced by this front office. Now Ryan Poles had said he's come out and said, "Listen, we're going to make this easy by Justin and stuff and move along." And I think he needs to do that. So I'm kind of taking him at his word for that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But this is the thing. I didn't even consider him staying. But what if he stays and it becomes toxic within the locker room? I don't think Justin Fields is that guy.
No.
I really
I
don't. Like, he doesn't strike me as that guy, but I imagine it being very uncomfortable in that building. And whose team is it? Justin's, or is it Caleb's team? Right. And so I think they have to move him out because of that reason. You need to have a guy that comes in that knows that they're a backup. Right. And
yeah.
like they had a guy behind him that I can't remember, that came in, played very well for like a game or two. Played well for one game, but didn't the next. But I just, I look at that, I don't know if they can succeed with both of them on there. But Justin Fields' situation, this entire thing so far, that from what I've seen, and again, it's an outside perspective, I don't know what's going on indoors, but to me, I think it's a master class in how to lose a locker room, because
Yeah.
you should have already moved him at this point, right? Now Kirk Cousins is signed, Baker's signed. Now your windows of where he can go are that much smaller. You needed to be
Yeah.
forceful with that to have him out right out of the gates, right? You could have traded him before free agency started, but you didn't do that. So now, I don't know. I just,
I don't think that's fair though, and I'm going to tell you why. Because like there's enough tape on Justin Fields. I don't think I don't think there were a lot of offers for him. Respectfully, like
you could have been right. I just, I don't know. I look at this team now, even with Justin Fields at quarterback. And I still think, okay, so DJ Moore, they added him last offseason. They've added DeAndre Swift now, who sometimes he can't stay healthy. He did pretty good with Philly this year, but like in
yeah,
the past, he's had injury issues and stuff. So they bring him in. They've got an all right offensive line. Okay, not great. I think they've got a lot of holes. But in my mind, they are 2 years, two drafts, two free agency periods away from being able to compete.
yeah,
Even with Caleb Williams. Like, it worries me the same thing that could happen if a guy like that went to the Patriots, where they don't have enough talent there around him to make him successful. He can't just drop back and throw
yeah,
the ball to DJ Moore 30 times a game. Can't do it. Right? Like,
yeah. I agree.
I don't know, man. Like, I hope they get it figured out. But I think you're right. You brought up some really good points there about Justin Fields. Like, people already know he's been in the league long enough. They know what they're getting when they get Justin Fields. But I
There's
just,
enough tape on him. Yeah,
there really is. You've got a good sample size. Um,
I I will say this. I think some team will trade for him, and I say this because somebody will talk themselves into being like, well, maybe it was the wrong situation.
mhm.
Somebody will talk themselves into that.
Yeah.
The question is who.
Yeah. Well, it could be this next team we're talking about. So,
Jeez.
we got the Minnesota Vikings. They finished at 7-10, third in the division. I mean, in my mind, it's tough to grade this team with so many injuries. They lose Cousins. That was obviously their guy, right? Justin Jefferson, the number one pick in fantasy, bona fide best receiver in the NFL, makes ridiculous catches all the time. I mean, just he's an unbelievable athlete, but an unbelievable player. And he gets injured. So, like, with Kirk gone to Atlanta, now what, right? Like, I don't know. We
Yeah.
mentioned it a little earlier. I gave you a little sneak preview. Don't be surprised if he ends up in New England, man. Don't be surprised if Jefferson ends up
Tease
there.
me
Like,
like that. Do
he's
not
just
tease me like that.
he's not going to sign long term, man. Like, would you? They just traded away
No.
your dude. You're going to sign long term? No. Come on.
Yeah. No. I mean, their number one QB on their depth chart right now is Sam Darnold, which is all you need to know
Wait, did they
about.
actually sign him?
I thought that they did. Yeah,
Okay.
I thought that they did.
Because he was
I'm
on the
just looking at.
49ers at the end of last season, I thought.
Yeah, he was their backup for all of last year.
Okay, yeah. So they brought
Yeah.
him in, but I think you got to add somebody else. Now, if they want to trade Jefferson, I'm okay with doing that because they've got Addison there now, who's a good player and stuff. They could bring in a quarterback to pair with him. But if I'm Jefferson, I'm like, yo, figure out a way to trade me to Kansas City. Could you imagine?
You want to hear a joke?
Mm-mm.
The Vikings gave Sam Darnold a $10 million contract.
Okay, that's backup money though. That's backup money.
I guess.
Yeah, I mean, dude, when you've got quarterbacks making 50 million a year, that's definitely backup money. So, but
Yeah.
it's I don't know.
The problem is they pick 11th, so they're not gonna. I mean, like they could go maybe after a guy like if McCarthy's still hanging around there. Um, they could. I
Yeah.
think 11 is too high, but like a guy like Bo Nix out of Oregon could really be somebody that like. But Bo Nix, I
Yeah.
think respectfully, is going to be taken in the second round, and I think that's going to be the steal of the draft of whoever can get him.
Okay.
I am calling that right now.
Yeah, I
Like,
think he's a
that
good
dude.
player, man. He's a good player.
Ooh, boy.
They talked a lot about him on Pat McAfee show, and like that guy's a baller, man. He really
Guy can
is.
play.
Yeah.
And he played against real talent in the Pac-12.
Yeah.
Say what you want, but like But yeah, this depth chart right now is Sam Darnold, Nick Mullins, Joshua Dobbs, and Jaron Hall.
Oof. Ooh. None of
Yeah.
them do I feel good about. Even the past or not.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but it's even worse on the defensive side because they need a lot of help too, right? Like a lot. I think you had mentioned they had just on offense they had just signed Aaron Jones. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
so they bring him in, which he's familiar. I mean, in the division, I don't know if I like it or not. I like Aaron Jones as a player, but very streaky in my mind. And it really depends on like you could put Derrick Henry there, but who are you going to have at quarterback, right? Like it's you got to have someone there
Yeah.
that knows the game and knows how to play it well and can lead this team. But like I said, my big issue is the defense, right? Like they need a lot of help, especially with how good Detroit and Green Bay are. Green Bay's on the rise, right? Like I mean,
Yeah.
there's very few teams in the NFL that looked as hot as Green Bay did, and Green Bay was last year's Jacksonville, right? They got
And
just
Green
enough.
Bay got
They went in and they smashed Dallas at home, and then they went in
yep.
and went toe to toe with the Super Bowl runner up, and it was dangerously close.
Respectfully,
So
they should have won that game.
yeah,
But yeah, yeah. And they got and we'll just talk about Green Bay now. Like they got better offensively. They have Josh Jacobs as their running back now.
hmm
That is a huge upgrade.
yeah. He had an off.
Huge
He had
upgrade for
an
them.
like a down year last year, but I really think a lot of that were like the woes that they were experiencing in Las Vegas, just as a team,
Yeah.
right? Lose coach gets fired. They're not, you know, it was. Oh God,
Yeah.
McDaniel's really screwed that up so bad.
Sure did.
Ugh. All
Yeah.
right. So Green Bay, I know we were just talking about Minnesota. Now we're gonna chat about Green Bay, right? They finished 9-8, second in the division, but this team is definitely hot. And I mean, just to put it in perspective, they started out 3-6, and at that point, I'm looking at the standings, and I'm saying this team's done for the year. They're done.
We all did. Yep.
They went 6-2 down the stretch, and it looked like everything clicked, right? They know that they can hang now, right? Like Jordan Love is obviously a guy. The offense gelled around him. Jaden Reed was a great pick for them. Great pick in fantasy
Yeah.
too. Nice job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice job.
How dare
So
you? How dare
just
you?
a super dynamic playmaker on offense, right? Like this guy reminds me a lot of Debo Samuel, the way he plays. Except I don't see him whining as much. But he's like a very good player for this offense. And I think another year with those two tight ends that they drafted there, Tucker Kraft and can't think of the other one right now off the top of my head, but he was injured for a bit last year. But they had those two rookie tight ends that were excellent.
Oh, Luke Musgrave.
Luke Musgrave, that's who it is.
Yeah,
Jeez.
Luke Musgrave.
Yeah, both of them were awesome last year for them. I really think it's going to make a big difference for them going forward. The defense was really bad though. They lose one of their safeties, Savage, who I don't know. Some people can be happy about it, some people can't. But like, I think he was a good player. You don't want to lose a guy
Yeah.
like that in free agency. They need some serious help through the draft. And look at a team like Detroit. They were able to add some good pieces on defense, and it made them a lot better on defense because of that. So, I
Yeah.
don't know.
If I'm Green Bay, like I spent all my picks on defense. Like you have to.
Well, this is the other thing too. So, yeah, I'm gonna mess his name up. Gutekunst, right? Their GM. We've so many people have doubted this guy since they got rid of Aaron Rodgers. And
Yeah.
how smart does he look now? Patient,
I mean,
smart, composed.
we all made fun of when he selected Jordan Love. We're like,
Yeah.
who the fuck is this guy? And
Yeah.
like, you know what? We were wrong. This is why we're not GMs of a team.
I'll tell you, he's got an arm. He's
Yeah.
got an arm. I know we talked about it earlier during the season and stuff, but those weekly dinners that he was hosting for the team at his house, those make a difference. Those mean something. They matter. It helped this team propel this team forward. So really happy for them, trying to see what they have coming this year. They're going to be pushing Detroit for the top, to win this division.
I agree.
It's not going to be easy. I mean, Detroit now has a target on their back. People are going to be getting their best shot now, right? Or I'm sorry, Detroit is going to be getting other people's best shot now. It's
Yep.
so. Speaking of which, right? Detroit ends up winning the division. They go 12-5 this year. Lose to San Francisco in just heartbreaking fashion in the NFC Championship game. We actually watched that together.
We sure did. Boy,
Yeah.
that was rough.
But the one thing that I will say about this team, right? Like Dan Campbell really had this team believing in themselves and feeling themselves, and that's an important thing, right? Like you look at the offense, and I had talked about it in fantasy all year, right? Goff, Amon Ra, you've got Jameer Gibbs, Montgomery, Laporta. Those five must starts every single week because of how good they were and how they were able to get it done. The entire offensive line deserves credit too because they have a
Yeah.
absolute starting with Frank Ragnow at center. I mean, they are just stacked. Sewell is an unbelievable athlete for a big guy. Penei Sewell,
Yeah.
he's a beast, man. And I remember years ago when they drafted him out of Oregon with like I don't know the 5th overall pick, something like that, and people were judging about it and stuff. No, dude, that guy is a superior athlete.
Yeah.
Quite possibly the best one on the field at any given time. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I thought they played very well this year. Like I mentioned before, Jonah Jackson losing him, I think that hurts this offensive line. They've got to refill, right? Defense needs work too, right? CJ Gardner Johnson, he's, with him going into free agency, they didn't have him for most of last year, but that guy's a playmaker. They're going to have to figure out who's going to step up. Now, the good thing, and I know there's not really many good sides to injuries. The good thing is sometimes, well, not sometimes, but all the time, other guys get reps. So when your starter's out, those guys are getting key experience reps that they need. So there's guys filling in for him when he's out, right? And that's one thing that I think Detroit really was able to do this year is pick up the pieces when they did have guys get injured. They stayed fairly healthy on offense. Montgomery got banged up a little bit. Gibbs got banged up a little bit. Amon Ra had nagging injuries kind of all year, but they stayed relatively healthy and were very good because of it.
Yeah.
I just went on a roll there. Sorry, man. I really like. I mean, I love their GM. I love their coach. Like they hit on the draft last year. They had multiple picks that really blossomed for them and like made you feel good to think about. Like Laporta, Gibbs, Campbell was a rookie too. Brian Branch was a rookie, and like these guys produced when they were out there. That feels good, man. That feels good. So like I really am a Detroit fan. I'm happy for them.
There are 2
Don't break
things
my heart. I know you're gonna say something to break my heart. Don't do it.
No. There are 2 things that like I think they need a one more wide receiver because I think Josh Reynolds, like respectfully, I know he had probably the worst game of his life in that NFC title game. I get that, but like you could do a lot better for a third wide receiver.
And Jameson Williams, I know he's talented, but I'm just not sold on him yet. Like adding a good veteran in there. And I'm glad they didn't throw money at a guy like Gabe Davis. I'm so glad they didn't do that.
Me too.
I want to see them possibly bring in another young guy. Goff is experienced enough now. They could bring in a rookie and he can work to that rookie's strong suits, right? Why not do that? Like, let's bring in a stud rookie and throw him in the lineup and see what happens, right? Like this team has shown that they can cultivate good talent and also when they bring in new talent be able to add them in seamlessly. Let's see them do it again.
The other thing that worries me a little bit is, and maybe it was just an off year, but their kicker Michael Bagley, dude missed a lot of extra points.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're going to take a kicker. I don't. Because he, like, dude was solid as a kicker last year and when it wasn't an extra point. Like, I think he was, like, perfect. And, like, but that's, if your kicker can't kick extra points, that can become an issue. And I'd like to think that maybe this was, like, a weird fluky last season for him, but something to look out for potentially.
Maybe that's why Dan Campbell chose to go for 2 so often.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah.
Like I would not doubt it. Like
man. It's I want to see them do well next year again, but the draft is going to be it's another key component as well as free agency to like making sure that you continue that winning tradition, right? You have to reload and you have to keep going out and getting after it again. And this is a team that I think really has the ability to do that. I don't want to see them not get back there again. I want to see them get a shot at it. I really do.
Yeah.
Anything else you wanted to mention about them? I know that took us a little bit to get through AFC and NFC, but we powered through. Anything else you wanted to mention at all?
No, I think that's really it. Yeah, like I'm really excited for the draft. I
Mm-hmm.
think there is two things this year. A lot of good quarterbacks in this draft potentially, and what seems to be like another stud receiver class.
Yeah, it's
Oh
amazing how those are
man.
kind of paired together. And
Oh my god.
they, what I'm curious about is, okay, so we know it's a stud receiver class, or at least that's what we're being told. How are they going to stack up against the other classes that came before them, right? Because there's some really good receivers that came out of that. You think about the young receivers in the league right now, like Jefferson, Chase, Amon Ra, CD Lamb. Like these guys, they're beasts, right? Like they're very very good receivers.
Yeah.
How do they stack up against them? Do they transition well, and are they can they acclimate to the NFL, or is it going to take time for them to learn? Um,
Well, I think respectfully, a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. is just
yeah, he's that good,
he's
dude.
just gonna be really good right away.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, I think he will be. There's a lot of talent at the
yeah,
top of this draft that is uh got a lot of GMs staying up at night like, "Oh, who do we take, dude? Let's not mess this up," right?
yeah,
But yeah, well, we're when we come back next week, we're gonna dive into it will be the AFC and NFC East that we'll have. So we're gonna go NESW, never eat shredded wheat, right? Is it that the way you know it, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But we will be back. It's gonna be we'll be filming next Tuesday, but we'll be bringing it to you next Wednesday again. We're edging closer to the start of the MLB season too, so I know Al's getting real excited for that.
Sure
Um,
am.
and it's just it's going to be awesome. It's a great time of year. I went through that lull of like post Super Bowl depression, and like now like I was even getting on my wife's nerves, and she's like, man, you need a hobby or something. So we're we're back at it now, definitely feeling it, and we can't wait to bring you guys some more content. Was there anything else you wanted to cover today, Al?
No, no, that's it. I do have a trivia question.
Ooh, bring him the
Dude,
trivia. Yeah.
yeah. Um, so it seems like Caleb Williams is going to be the first overall pick in this draft.
Mm-hmm.
Caleb Williams comes from USC. How many USC quarterbacks have won a Super Bowl?
Hmm.
The answer is going to shock you.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of it off the top of my head right now, and I don't know for certain. So I'm gonna take a guess next week at it. But if you want to take a guess, make sure you
Yeah,
comment down below. Give us your best shot. Let us know what you think. And yeah, we'll be back next week with another trivia question for you. And
yeah,
you could check to see what the answer on that is for sure. So, and you're always bringing the fire on those. I love it, man.
yeah.
Ugh. All right. Well, listen, we are going to take off now. We appreciate it. Al, I love you, bud. I appreciate it. Another good one, right?
Yeah, yeah. Willie, I love you, man. Stay safe, and yeah, peace.
All right. Take care, bro. Peace.